Hello, my name is Gilkison. Today I'll be presenting my analysis of the global commodity market for swine, covering the years 2023 through 2028. The purpose of this report is to define, explain, and forecast one of the world's most important agricultural commodities, swine, in a way that's accessible and free to the public. Many professional market outlooks, such as Rabobank's Pork Quarterly, required paid subscriptions. But since pork markets shift rapidly with global trade, disease risks, feed costs, and consumer preferences, producers and consumers need current information. So the goal of this report is to provide a no-cost, up-to-date picture of where the swine market stands now and where it is most likely heading over the next 5 years. Swine can be defined differently depending on who is speaking, but in technical context, swine refers specifically to the live animal stage, while pork refers to the processed product. Swine are typically categorized by weight. For example, the USDA defines hogs as pigs over 50 pounds. Feeder pigs usually weigh between 40 and 60 pounds, and market hogs fall between 230 and 280 pounds. Globally, grading systems differ. The US focuses on live weight, while the European Union classifies carcasses based on lean meat percentage. This diversity of grades informs feeder pigs, market hogs, carcasses, cuts, shows that swine is not a single homogeneous product. Instead, it's a commodity with multiple specifications across the supply chain. Most global swine production comes from large-scale agribusinesses and vertically integrated meat packers rather than small independent farms. Examples include Smithfield Foods in the US and China, as pictured below, Danish Crown in Europe, and JBS in Brazil. These firms operate industrial-scale facilities that benefit from economies of scale, low per-unit production cost, advanced technology, and large labor forces. Feed is the largest input expense, making up 60 to 70% of total production cost, mostly from corn and soybean meal. Technologies such as precision feeding, genomic selection, and automated processing systems continue to improve productivity, but these advancements also create high barriers to entry, meaning the global swine market is dominated by a relatively small group of large producers. The swine marketing chain stretches from upstream feed producers such as grain and equipment firms to downstream processors, food retailers, and ultimately households. At the farm level, the commodity is the live animal. At the wholesale and international level, it is usually pork carcasses, processed cuts, or specialty products like bacon and ham. Large firms such as a WH Group, Tyson Foods, and international distributors play the largest role in the buying and selling of bulk pork. This chain demonstrates that changes in feed prices, labor markets, retail preferences, or even global shipping costs can influence the swine market, even though those changes occur outside the commodity itself. Swine production is concentrated in a few dominant regions. China remains the world's largest producer and consumer of pork. The European Union, especially Spain, Germany, and Denmark, is another major hub, supplying both the EU and export markets. North America, led by the United States and Canada, is a key exporter to East Asia. Meanwhile, Brazil continues to expand its production capacity, increasing growth even after COVID-19 disruptions. Because these regions hold so much market share, production shocks in any one of them, such as disease outbreaks or trade restrictions, can influence global pork prices. In the global market, swine and pork move through structured exchanges, contracts, and trade agreements. Processed pork is shipped using refrigerator systems, often called reefer trucks or containers. Despite technological improvements, losses still occur. For example, live hogs may suffer stress or mortality during long-distance transport, and pork quality can decline if refrigeration fails. Swine is typically valued in US dollars, either per head, per hundredweight, or per metric ton. Because pork is a heavy, low-value density product, transportation costs matter enormously. Even a small rise in fuel prices or freight rates can shift trade flows and change the competitiveness of exporters. In 2023, the global market quantity of swine was calculated at 1.511,950,905 billion hogs, and using the USDA's average hog weight of 249 pounds, that represents over 376 billion pounds of live swine per year. The International Monetary Fund reports that the global average price in 2023 was $100.44 per hundredweight. This price and quantity represent the market equilibrium where the willingness of producers to supply swine matches the willingness of consumers and processors to buy it. The first major supply shift factor is rising labor costs, especially in Asia. As wages increased, in some regions by 4 to 6% per year, the cost of skilled labor, animal care, veterinary services, and facility management rises. This creates upward pressure on production costs, shifting the supply curve left. The result is a higher market price and a lower market quantity, holding everything else constant. Feed grain production in South America has been growing at an average rate of 5.8 per year over the past decade. Because feed accounts for up to 70% of production cost, higher grain supply lowers feed prices, reducing total swine production cost. This shifts the supply curve to the right. As a result, prices decrease and production increases, making this one of the most impactful supply-side factors. The third factor influencing supply is rapid advancements in genetic technology. Genomic selection improves productivity by increasing average litter size, stabilizing growth rates, and improving carcass quality. These improvements raise expected profitability and encourage producers to expand output. This results in another rightward shift of the supply curve, lowering prices and increasing quantity. Forecasts indicate that global oil inventories will rise in 2026, lowering the price per barrel. Lower fuel prices reduce transportation costs for both live hogs and processed pork, and they also lower the cost of running large production facilities. This is another rightward supply shift, pushing prices down and increasing total output. On the demand side, the most important factor is rising incomes in Asia and other developing regions. GDP per capita in parts of Asia is expected to rise 5 to 6% annually, increasing the ability of consumers to buy pork, which remains one of the most culturally preferred proteins in East Asia. As incomes rise, demand shifts to the right, increasing both equilibrium price and quantity. The final major factor is the growth in poultry production. Because poultry and pork are substitute goods, high poultry supply and falling poultry prices reduce demand for pork. This shifts the demand curve to the left, decreasing both equilibrium price and quantity. However, in regions such as East Asia, where pork is strongly preferred, the magnitude of this leftward demand shift is smaller than the impact of rising incomes. When we combine all six of these factors, we see that four supply factors shift supply to the right, one shifted to the left, and demand shifts are mixed. The most significant change is the increase in feed grain production, followed by technological improvements. On the demand side, rising incomes outweigh the negative effect of higher poultry supply. Adding these together gives us the net expected movement of the curves. Here is the joint effects graph Overall, supply is expected to shift slightly more than demand. This means the forecasted market outcome for 2028 is a slight decrease in price, a slight increase in total market quantity compared to 2023 values of $100.44 per hundredweight and 376 billion pounds per year. I'd like to conclude by acknowledging that this analysis was completed under real-time data and resource limitations because I relied on publicly available information and had only one semester to complete the report. Many forecasts rely on reasonable assumptions rather than sophisticated econometric models. If more time and resources were available, I would expand the analysis to include detailed regional production models, more precise estimates of technology adoption, and scenario testing for shocks such as disease outbreaks or tariff changes. Thank you for listening, and I hope this presentation helps clarify how the global swine market is structured today and where it is heading over the next 5 years.